very intelligent, he's witty, he's charming.
He'd always talk about, I'm going to be a doctor.
But he has this dark side that he likes to keep separate and hidden from everybody else.
This is a story about 33 patients who put their trust in a prominent surgeon in Dallas.
State your full name for the record.
Christopher Daniel Punch.
And wish they hadn't.
This friend called me and said, I believe that your doctor is on the news that he has been killing patients.
And it's a story about a system that failed to protect them at every possible turn.
I'm trying to stop this guy from being let operate anywhere, anytime, any place.
Have you ever been under the influence of any drugs during the time that you were performing spinal surgery on any patient?
I take the fifth.
This was not an operation that was performed. This was attempted murder. Whoa, don't take no vacation in this land.
From Wondery, the network behind Dirty John, I'm your host and reporter, Laura Beale. Dr. Death, our new 6-part series. Subscribe today.
Listen and follow this podcast for free on the iHeartRadio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts all in one.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Jason Aldean to discuss if he still gets anxious when he releases new music.
Man, I got anxiety anytime we release anything anymore, man. It seems like the business is changing from day to day, so you're sort of a little nervous and have that anxiety a little bit until it gets out there and you see, what it's going to do. But I've always kind of felt like as long as we went in and did things our way and it was, and I felt like it was cool, then it just has always seemed to work out, and just by kind of sticking to things that I like and that I think are cool, things that I want to do.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Jason Aldean and all your favorite artists.
Here are the top Smashing Pumpkins songs that you've thumbed up. Number 3, Bullet with Butterfly Wings. Number 2, Today. Number 1, 1979. Hear more from Smashing Pumpkins and similar artists now. Search for Smashing Pumpkins on iHeartRadio. All your favorite music, all your favorite stations, all free.
You should just know. You're always doing that. I don't want to talk about it. Oh, my favorite phrases that should never be said if you're hoping to maintain a relationship, whether it's business, romantic, or parent-child. Let me tell you how to have healthy connections.
Dr. Wendy Walsh. Sunday night at 7 on KFI. And on demand anytime on the iHeartRadio app.
Shannon, KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Some of the stories that we're watching. Migrants coming across the border, hoping of entering the United States in these final hours before Title 42 ends. Many people have been fearing that the change is going to make it more difficult for them to stay. We've been watching Alejandro Mayorkas, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, take questions from reporters there at the White House to explain what the administration has planned for all of this. Among other things, he has described that people who come into the United States illegally are presumed ineligible for asylum, and under the new rules, if you come here illegally, you're not qualified for 5 years to come back into the country.
You're banned for 5 years.
Which Well, yes, they're going to be doubly illegally entering.
Whereas under Title 42, you would be turned away, and then you could try again.
Right. We mentioned just the San Diego Union Tribune had an article regarding what's going on the California border, and a lot of what we've seen, the images, the tents, the lines of people, the Texas National Guard out there turning people away from entering the country, that's all taking place in Texas. Now, the Union Tribune says that what we've seen here in the California version of the border is not significantly different than it was a few days ago. Whereas in Texas, they've been picking up 10,000 people a day, setting records in terms of the number of apprehensions that they've made along the border.
It is still chaotic down there. I have a friend of mine who is a producer for Fox News, and she's down there, and it may be a little bit more organized, according to the images that she's showing on her social media and tweeting out and on her Instagram. A lot of this is through the app, the CBP app.
Yeah, CBP1 is the name of it. A lot of people, so the whole point of the app, which I wasn't unveiled that long ago, the whole point of the app was just to allow people to schedule a hearing, schedule an asylum appointment where they apply for asylum. But even then, you're talking 25, 30 people, in a day. That's, that pales in comparison to the sheer number of people that are trying to come across.
I mean, and just the idea that it's on an app and the tech problems that came along with that as well, and not being able to access it, and it's down, and impossible to make an appointment. There have been problems there as well.
So the Supreme Court ruling on bacon, I think, is an important ruling because everybody loves bacon.
Well, in the break, I just got some coffee for the bacon conversation.
The Supreme Court has upheld an animal welfare law that was approved by us, Proposition 12, if you remember back in 2018. 63% of us voted in favor of prohibiting the sale of eggs or meat that would originate from the extreme confinement of egg-laying hens, breeding pigs, or calves raised for veal. The law is due to take effect last year, but pork producers went to court to challenge the provisions that affected their industry. The most interesting aspect of this, to me,
is
this has nothing to do with politics. The court broke down, joining Neil Gorsuch was Clarence Thomas, Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Amy Coney Barrett. 3 very conservative justices and 2 very liberal justices. Meanwhile, John Roberts, Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented. They said the California restrictions on pork sales put a burden on the free flow of interstate commerce. Now, what Neil Gorsuch said in his ruling was that the Constitution says that Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce among the states. It doesn't put that power entirely in the hands of judges. So the court has been skeptical of using the Constitution to strike down a law that was put in by a state. That authority would rest in a provision that says that Congress may regulate commerce among the several states. So,
to comply with the California law, breeding pigs would have to be given larger pens that would allow them to stand and turn around, therefore less cruel, or they could be confined in an open area with other pigs. The producers said those changes would increase their costs by 9%.
Yeah, because even if you don't raise the pig here, to sell the pig here, let me depersonalize it. To sell the pork here, you would have to change the way that you do this. So if you're Hormel Foods and you got a plant in Iowa, you have to change the way you raise and confine a breeding pig in order to sell that meat eventually here in the state of California. So in this case, they have upheld this law. So we will see changes to all of this once it goes into effect. And the thing is, you're going to see prices go up.
You just depersonalize. I'm going to get personal. Are you a bacon eater?
Yes, and I don't trust people who aren't. Not that Deborah is not untrustworthy.
You don't trust me.
But you eat,
Deborah.
You eat bacon, don't you?
No, I do not.
You don't eat anything fake?
No, I can't stand any of that stuff. No. No fake meat, no fake butter, none of that. And yay for the pigs. They deserve the extra room. I'm so happy.
Well, let's be clear. They're still going to end up in the same place.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know, but before they end up there, they have a little better life. That's
Deborah, are you vegan?
I'm vegan.
Okay.
I say that so sadly. I'm vegan.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that.
You should be proud.
I am proud.
The honesty in that statement is important. Remember that. I'm vegan.
Well, no, because I know you guys, you're sitting there talking about how much you love bacon. So I felt a little judged. And then I said,
no.
Screw that.
You can judge us. Deborah, you can judge us.
Okay, well, I'm judging you guys.
Absolutely. I can smell it.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
Man.
Sorry, Deborah.
Okay.
I feel terrible.
You don't even like the smell of bacon?
But you know
wait, hold on a second. Now, that was not, to me, I sensed a tinge of, I should say no, but there's still part of me.
Because I smell it all the time. My husband loves bacon, so he cooks it all the time.
What
so
a horrible human.
I'm sort of desensitized.
You don't cook it?
You know, I have for my family before.
Okay.
I just don't eat it.
Got it. Well, there's a lot of people who don't.
I love your sacrifice.
Yeah.
Look, I made turkey tacos for my family.
I
right?
love it.
So yes. I just don't eat.
Do you sit there and eat nothing while they were eating turkey tacos?
No,
and
then
going,
I'll make my...
Oh, this is so good.
No. No, I have refried beans. Not made with lard, I may add.
Yeah, and then you honk the night away.
That's true, I do.
All right, Swamp Watch, we'll get into that. We have Tech Talk with Mark Saltzman coming up. A lot more to go on the Gary and Shannon Show right after this.
We're not here to tell you what to think.
We're here to give you the latest.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Cheerleading coach charged. I'm Deborah Mark, live from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. A cheerleading coach has been charged in Orange County with molesting multiple young girls.
His victims range in age from 11 to 16 years old.
Orange County DA's Kimberly Ed says a girl came forward claiming she recognized Eric Christensen in news reports from Florida, where he'd been accused of touching himself during video calls with young cheerleaders.
Christensen is accused of molesting 6 Orange County girls he coached between 2002 and 2007, routinely taking some of the girls to off-campus events and even to his home where he would molest them.
She says the guy coached at Magic All-Stars Club and Trabuco Canyon High School. Investigators say more girls may have been abused. Christensen is due back in court in 2 weeks. In Orange County, Corbin Carson, KFI News.
Lawyers for LA County have asked a judge to dismiss a lawsuit by a woman alleging she was sexually abused as a kid by 3 people in her foster home. The woman alleges she was impregnated when she was 13. The lawyers argue the woman told her social workers at the time she liked living in her home and wanted to stay. The woman is now 42. Updated court papers filed yesterday say while the woman's claims are tragic, evidence does not show the county is liable. A hearing is scheduled for July. The Supreme Court says animal cruelty law in California banning narrow cages for pigs is not unconstitutional.
The Supreme Court ruled that the state's restrictions do not violate commerce protections. Voters in the state approved a law in 2018 which prohibited the sale of meat or eggs that comes from animals in extreme confinement. The law was supposed to go into effect last year, but pork producers challenged it, saying it affects business. The issue was holding pigs in tight metal cages where they couldn't sit or lie down. The law requires an open area where pigs can move freely. Chris Adler, KFI News.
Officials in Riverside County say the end of Title 42 could mean an influx of migrants for the county, which started getting large numbers of migrant transfers from Border Patrol agents in 2021. The county CEO says since then, Border Patrol drop-offs near the agency's offices in Blythe, Indio, and Marietta have been constant. He says an increase in the number of people released by border officials will cause significant stress to the system. Following the failure of several major banks, the FDIC has proposed extra fees for big banks to cover losses. ABC's Alexis Christoforous says the country's largest banks would pay a special assessment fee to cover the costs from bailing out unlicensed depositors.
Regulators want to impose special fees on a total of 113 large banks to make up for the nearly $16 billion lost.
Officials say the move is meant to protect smaller banks, which will not be subjected to the new fees. The FDIC says JP Morgan Chase would pay around $1.5 billion in added fees since the bank had around $1.2 trillion in uninsured deposits at the end of last year. The proposal likely will not be finalized until later this year. 2 cases of drug-resistant ringworm have been reported in New York City. The CDC says it's the first time this specific infection has been reported in the U.S. The infection was first identified in a woman who was traveling to Bangladesh. The rash was all over her body, and typical creams did not help.
It's a spicy kid. It's going to change everything. It will save our factory. And you're a janitor.
And a trailer for the Flamin' Hot Cheetos biopic has dropped online. The film follows Richard Montanez in a rags to riches story about how a janitor rose to fame for inventing the fiery red snack. The trailer claims the movie is inspired by a true story